Okay, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you. So this week's topic is all about challenging emotions, how to deal with challenging emotions. And today, the title of this talk is Seeing Emotions Clearly, a Healing Strategy. Now, many people try to do something to their emotions. When you are faced with an emotion that is painful, the first instinct is what? Well, to get rid of it, right? To somehow push it away. You really don't want to feel that. The same is, of course, true for thoughts, other internal experiences, certain perceptions that are painful, or external experiences around ourselves, like people that we disagree with, that we don't like, that are kind of disturbing factors in our life. We want to get rid of them. We want to somehow not have to put up with them. So this is a very common behavior. We want to push away what is seemingly the cause of our pain. Okay? So an emotion might very much look like it's the real true cause of your pain, but that's actually not true. Just like your neighbor is not the true cause of your pain, or your life circumstances are not really the true cause of your pain. The true cause of pain is much more how we relate to what is happening right now, how we receive it. That's where the pain is hidden. How many people they would deal with what they experience, whether it's emotions or thoughts or circumstances in any kind of way, they would deal with that through two doors, you can say. Two doors. So the first one would be craving for it to go away, as pushing against it, and the other one would be trying to get more of it, like kind of turn up the volume, put it on repeat, get more out of it. So when you're feeling a pleasant emotion, the usual tendency is what? To prolong it, to go deeper into it, turn up the volume, to enjoy it even more. Right? But does that ever work? No, because there's a limit to a pleasant emotion. You can't just turn it up infinitely. And you're getting more and more and more pleasant. It's impossible. There's a peak point to it. There's a maximum experience of pleasure in that emotion, and then it turns into the opposite direction. It becomes painful slowly. The same thing you can observe in absolutely everything. Your sitting posture, it constantly is an exchange between pain and solution, right? So you feel painful, you get into the solution, you change your posture, and then the next pain comes, and then you have to change again, and so forth. So that goes around and around. The same is true for our emotions, our energetic posture, our mental posture, our perceptions and thoughts, our views and opinions, beliefs. Also, those are kind of spinning around all the time. And so many people want to somehow get strategies and techniques of how to deal with something, how to deal with emotions. And that's fair enough. There are very good strategies and techniques to transform emotions, to deal with negative emotions, to restructure the way we think, and create a bit of a more skillful mindset, a more skillful set of actions, skillful speech and so forth, working on that, because all that causes pleasant experiences. For example, if you are kind to someone and you are giving rise to a pleasant experience for the other person and for yourself as well. There's even some scientific article about that when you're giving something to someone else, it's almost for our own system, you're experiencing the same emissions of hormones and so forth as if you were the receiver of that gift. There's some very interesting studies about that. So you're actually experiencing on a physiological level the same that the receiver of the gift would experience, that same kind of joy. And you know that without the science. It feels good to give. It feels good to be kind to someone. It feels almost like you've accomplished something big. When you really made someone's day, that's nice. It gives you a boost for the entire day. You feel great, right? So it is very wise to adjust our actions so that they serve ourselves and others. It's wise to adjust our thoughts and our emotions because they're at the root of our actions. So if you want to adjust your life, if you want to change your life, the way to do that is by first adjusting the way you feel, and that is based on the way you think and the way you perceive things. Once you have changed the way you think and feel, you will start to talk different things and you will start to act in different ways, which is more in correspondence with what you feel and think. Therefore, that gives rise to a different kind of direction in your life, different relationships, different experiences with other people, and different returns from that. That is not to be neglected. There are some spiritual traditions in which the students heavily say, no, it's only just awareness. That's the only thing you ever need to do, just be aware. Or just be. There's nothing else to be done, right? So they completely neglect the aspect of a human being which is all about doing, and which is also very vital and important. The doing is important, particularly the way we govern our thoughts and so forth. Otherwise, it becomes just a massive spiritual pretense. It's all about awareness. It's this nice ideology that we take on like a garment, and then we identify with that. It becomes just another kind of ego game under the disguise that we are now masters and free from self and free from ego and all that, but it's just a huge ego feeling that is very enlightened. Yeah, and that's very hard to spot. So it requires a great deal of honesty to actually look through these kind of creations of the mind too. Very important. So therefore, we want to start at a level that makes perfect sense. Always start at a level of adjusting and letting go of things that are harmful and cultivating things that are beneficial. That is very important. So we can't just say it's only awareness. It's never just only one thing. It's only black. It's only white. There's nothing else. No. There's a huge spectrum in between that needs to be respected. And anybody that cultivates anything in life with intelligence, they will notice very clearly, here's what works. Here's what is uplifting. Here's what leads to insight, knowledge, and long-term benefit and well-being. And here's what's leading to the opposite. This is leading to miserable relationships. People try to escape from me. When I was first entering the monastery, I was a pest to people back in my family because I was coming back home. We had these three-month study bouts, and then we had a 1 month for retreat. And you could also go home and visit your parents and family. And for the first few months, I would just go home and visit family and friends again. And they couldn't stand me because I was full of it. I was full of quote-unquote wisdom and like amazing quotes and Tibetan mystical stories and all that kind of stuff. And how that is received by others can be a very good reflection on where it comes from within yourself, because it's very hard to see ourselves. And so it's very good to have others giving you feedback. And if you say, no, it's just awareness, you're hiding. There's a very good psychologist who coined the term spiritual bypassing, would be a perfect example of that. We're using spiritual ideas to bypass things that would be really important to confront and work with. And so instead we're just sitting there and being aware, nicely avoiding the issues that are really important. That happens a lot. It happened to me a lot. It still happens to me a lot. I'm probably full of it right now without even noticing it. So it requires, I think it's a very humbling process. The longer you're on it, the more you notice, ooh, wow, what did I say there after the first month of monastery? Oh my God, Why would I say that? What was really the motivating factor to say that? You look back on all your Facebook posts, like from the past years or so, and you're like, oh God, cringe, you know. It's so much cringe to be found in there. You know? And it's very humbling because, it's a good sign that you might cringe because it shows that you've grown somewhat. Yeah, you notice, oh wow, okay, that was very full of myself there, you know, going into arguments with other people about what awareness is and having no idea what awareness is on top of that. Yeah. Like people who really know consciousness, you can measure that. People who have real experience of being conscious of consciousness, you know what they are? They are aware of deep sleep. That's easy to check up. Are you able to know that you're in deep sleep? Oh, no, right now, the body has entered deep sleep. That's the ground of being. That is awareness. I'm in that right now. And sure, you wouldn't even have thoughts like that entering this state. There would be no thought because everything has dissolved. How do I know? I don't. Yes. But this is what the masters say. And this is probably a good measure. And I can take it with good faith. I'm not qualified to talk about these very deep states because I've heard a lot of very qualified people talk about these deeper states with great caution and great humility. And I myself have talked about this a lot. No humility. Yeah. So only in retrospect now I see that and I'm going like, oh Jesus, you know. Okay. We're all learning, right? So do I. I also learn. And this is really important to notice that what you're going through and what you're experiencing is really feedback. What people tell you is feedback. And it's important to consider that. Ajahn Chah gave this famous example. If someone calls you a dog, turn around and look if you have a tail. If there is no tail, everything is fine. But he still encourages you to turn around and have a look if there is a tail. He doesn't just say, someone calls you a dog, don't believe them, because you're pure awareness. Right? So we need to have a look. Is that really true? That requires a profound sense of honesty, a sincerity and devotion to the practice, devotion to truth. So what is it that is truly true, that is really real right now? Well, if you're annoyed, then start there. There's a painful, challenging emotion that you're dealing with. There's a sense of annoyance. Now that's the starting point. Start right there. Receive it first of all. Just notice that it's there. And then watch. And now since today the topic is clearly seeing something, seeing emotions clearly, I'm going to go a little bit more into that aspect. So today it's not so much about how to change it, how to transform it, how to turn it around, how to suppress it, how to work with it, whatever. But today it's more about really using the power of awareness to see clearly into what is going on right now. Now, I'm not talking about ultimate awareness or profound consciousness levels, whatever not. I'm talking about the simple mindfulness, just looking at it, just observing it. And then what will you find at the very beginning of your practice? That the mind is not very stable in observing. It very often is pulled into the experience of annoyance. And then it comes back out of it again, and it's pulled in it again. Maybe in the beginning there's a whole mix of experiences going on, like there's annoyance, then there's the questioning mind, it's like, why am I annoyed? Then there's the police mind saying, stop being annoyed. Then there's the guy that says, bad, the spiritual guy, you shouldn't be annoyed, you should be peaceful and kind and happy. There's all kinds of voices. It's almost like a huge group of people in your head that all try to get your attention, and they're very good at that. So they constantly succeed in getting your attention. Like the loudest guy usually wins, and then they get your attention for a while, then you're released again. Then you go immediately to the next guy. For example, I'm looking at annoyance, and the spiritual guy gets my attention. The spiritual guy says, you should be kind. You should forgive them. Just forgive them, okay? And so I get sucked into that for a little while, and so I feel like, I really should forgive them. It's probably the best thing to do. And then suddenly a sense of pride keeps saying, yeah, I did well there. Yeah, I'm pretty good at forgiving. Actually, I'm better at them because they actually never forgive me, but I always forgive them, which brings me to the next point. Why am I a doormat? And they're walking all over me constantly. I'm the one that's constantly forgiving. No, and boom, it changes to anger. Now the guy of the committee gets you, who preaches you how to be angry, and you get sucked into that. And so that's probably your beginning experience when you're watching yourself. It's just a huge chaos. Lots of stuff going on. So therefore, it is very important to stabilize the mind first. Put it on a tripod. If the camera is not on a tripod, then usually what it does, it just follows its objects, follows the subject, right? So I'm holding the camera looking at Anke, for example, and then Anke moves over there to this corner and I'm following her with the camera. So I am absorbed in Anke's actions. Okay? So when awareness is not stabilized, then I don't see that things come and go because I'm coming and going with the things. Does that make sense? Like the anger emotion comes in and I'm following it with my camera. Oh wow, I'm so angry. And then it turns into the next emotion, which I'm again following with my camera. So I am constantly moving with the emotions and with the thoughts. Now suppose I put my mind or my attention, my awareness on a tripod and it becomes really stable. Now I can see that the emotion comes in and goes out, but I'm not coming in and going out with it. That gives me the chance to separate the observer from the observed. And that only happens when the mind is really, really stable. Otherwise, it's mostly, for most spiritual practitioners who just right away jump into these kind of awareness practices, it's very popular nowadays, you find it everywhere on the internet, just sit down and be aware and let thoughts pass by. They get into this kind of attitude which they don't notice. They are identified with this attitude of, yeah, I'm just letting things pass by, but that's not really letting things pass by because they're still adhering to something. They're still looking through a certain colored lens. So it's really important to notice also the lenses that come and go on your camera. Not only the things that happen in front of the lens, but also the lenses of the camera itself, they tend to change. The way you see things, the attitude which is looking at things. You might see things pass and come and go, but you see that from an angry, annoyed perspective. And you don't notice the anger and annoyance behind it. It's like, well, another thing is coming and going. Well, I let it come and go, I guess. But you don't notice that. Because you are that attitude at that moment. Just like you don't see the car when you're sitting in it. You see through the windshield. You see the street. And it doesn't matter, you're still seeing a spiritual street in front of you, full of spiritual ideas and high-minded things. You're still in a car. And so when you get out of that car, usually you hop right into the next car, and that's the habit of a mind which is not properly stabilized. Therefore, we need to stabilize the mind. That's what we do when we do breathing meditation in the beginning. It's why we sit down and do spiritual practices. Yeah, to actually stabilize the mind. Put it on a tripod. And once it's on a tripod, then it has power. You can see things clearly. What can you see clearly? Well, that things arise and pass. And if you think of emotions, then you see emotions arise and pass. Now, when you look at emotions, the first thing that you want to look at is at the emotion without talk. So, can you manage to see the emotion without commentary, without labeling, without giving it any name? What would you see then? Imagine you're experiencing an emotion and there's absolutely no labeling, no words going on. What would you then feel? How would it be like to be angry without any talk in your head? You're experiencing anger live and raw without any additional talk. What would that do to the anger? Now that means you're watching an emotion clearly. But still, maybe your mind is not really stable, so you still get kind of sucked into it every now and then. So if you can keep your mind in a stable position and free from thought, then you can watch thoughts come and go. You can watch emotions come and go, but you yourself, you are unstained by what's happening in front of you. You're untouched by it. And that leads you deeper into what we call the practice of clear seeing. And the first symptom of proper practice in that direction is that things dissolve in front of your eyes fast. Do you have a lot of thoughts in general? You sit down, you have a lot of thoughts? Yeah? You do your meditation, there's a lot of talking in your head? Have you noticed? So let's do a little exercise then. Think of whatever you want to think about. I give you a minute. Start now. You can think about anything. Think like crazy. Whatever you want to think about. Whole universe is yours. Go for it. Now tell your mind that it can think about anything at once. Just watch what happens. Go, mind, knock yourself out. Be my guest. You have 15 seconds left. Go, 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 go. Give it your all. Cheer your mind up a little bit. Think. And stop. Now you've probably observed that the mind has thought a whole lot less. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Not so many thoughts in.
Hardly anything.
It's awesome, huh? Yeah. And how many times have you struggled in your meditation practice trying not to think? So here's the recipe. Next time your mind thinks, you tell your mind, there you go. You want to think? Go ahead. I'll just watch you. And it will stop immediately. And you know why? Because you watch. And that's powerful. If you watch, if you actually observe your mind, it can't really act the way it's used to act, because in order for your mind to act in a deluded way, it has to be mixed with the sense of me. But now your sense of me is aware. You're looking. So simple questions can turn things around, like, my mind is talking a lot, says the student. The teacher asks, well, who's listening? That points the awareness back onto itself. It does that in a tricky way, by asking the right kind of question. I have so many thoughts. Who's aware of that? To whom do those thoughts appear? Or who do these thoughts come for? Who is struggling with those thoughts? Can you be aware of that one? And usually you say, me. But you would say the same if I asked you who's thinking. You'd also say, me. So if that's not insanity, then what is? Like you have two people in your head. One is listening to the thinker and the other one is thinking the thoughts. And so we go through the whole day long, listening and talking and listening and talking to ourselves. It's absolute insanity. But since we all do it, it's kind of like we can pretend like we're okay, right? You can walk down the street and you can look like an adult. You can eat your food in a restaurant and just look like totally normal, like nothing's going on. But in your head, you're like pretending that like, I'm going to get up and fly home out of this restaurant and everyone will go like, whoa, we can fly. All while you're having your noodles, looking totally normal. Yeah. So, observing something reveals its true nature. We can learn by watching, by looking at something. But simply observing it. So if you're observing your thoughts or your emotions, guess what you will find next time you get sad? And you tell your mind, oh, you want to be sad? Be my guest. As Ajahn Brahm puts it nicely, the door of my hearts are always open for you. You can tell your sadness, hey sadness, the door of my heart is open for you. You can be there. You can stay as long as you want to. You are friendly to your sadness because that's a choice you can make. And of course it requires some awareness, right? You want to be aware of sadness first. Oh, there's sadness. And instead of trying to do anything to it, to fix it, receive it and allow it to be there. And then watch what happens. Okay, sadness, now that's all yours. The meditation stage is all yours. You can do anything you want. And I'll just watch. You know what will happen? Sadness dissolves instantly. There's no more ground for it to be there. And then you will learn something from that, namely that what really fuels your sadness is your resistance. And it's your resistance to the sadness itself. You don't want to experience it. And that's why it stays. It's almost like a little child that wants to be seen. They look at what I've painted for you, look at what I've painted for you, and you're like, come on, just get lost. I'm busy, I have work to do. And the child comes back after a while, look at what I've painted, look at my painting, and you just like, get lost. I told you before, get lost. And he comes back again, and then you go to the doctor, he says, I have this pestering emotion that keeps coming up. And the doctor asks you a few questions and says, okay, you eat that pill and the emotion will keep staying away. And sure enough, that pill sends the child asleep. But that's all that it does. As soon as you stop eating the pill, there it wakes up again. Again, it still has that painting that it wants you to see. And as long as we spend our time distracting ourselves from it, looking elsewhere, trying to get rid of it, it will not go. It might go to sleep, it might not get knocked out for a few days, but it's still there. And its job is to make you aware, quite literally. All pain is there to make you aware. It's a feedback mechanism on the level of the body, really, on the level of your mind, the emotional level. Pain is feedback. It shows you that what you do does not lead to happiness. It doesn't help. It doesn't lead to benefit. It's very good to have it. If we wouldn't have it, we wouldn't understand it. There are some people who have this rare disease or illness. They can't feel pain. They wouldn't notice if their hand was burning on an oven. It would just completely burn to coal. They wouldn't notice it. They wouldn't feel a thing. And that's very dangerous, because they don't notice when they cut themselves or when they lose blood or anything. They don't notice it. They just don't feel that they hurt themselves. And so it's very important to notice, okay, here I'm hurting myself, so maybe I should change things that I do. I should do things differently. That would be then intelligence. The ability to see what doesn't work in terms of creating happiness, and seeing what actually works in terms of letting go of suffering and stress. So emotions are just that. Challenging emotions, difficult emotions, hard emotions are just that. They're there for you to look. Your heart is full of little children that need to be seen. Some psychologists call it the shadow, right? It was Jung, I think. Yeah, these are repressed artifacts of the mind that are neglected, they're pushed aside. We don't want to face them, we don't want to deal with them. So here's what I recommend you. If you're of sound health and have a good mind, and you have a clear mind, you're not mentally ill or unstable in any way, then watch and invite and allow your bad feelings to be there. Work with them. Every time someone triggers something in you that you feel unpleasant, that's a nugget of gold right there. If you're pushing it away, you're not getting the benefit from it. But if you look into it, it'll bring you to amazing aspects of yourselves. It's almost like if you reintegrate those shadows, if you reintegrate those discarded aspects of the psyche, then you're getting their power at the same time. This is empowering because they carry energy. All the discarded aspects, whether it's fear or sadness or any traumas that we have, they carry tremendous power, like joy carries tremendous power. And by allowing them to come back into a unity, into a wholesomeness, a whole being, you're not split into many pieces and shards, then you can heal, you become whole again. That is what healing is, isn't it? It is the reintegration of what we reject. On the external level, what would that mean? Reintegrating our enemies, realizing that this world can only work if we work together. Yeah, but anyways, the way we hold it on the inside, of course we do it on the outside. And we can't expect the world to be any different from the way it is. The way it is the way it is. But can you see that within you? And can you work with that? Every pain is a piece of gold. Every challenging emotion, a piece of gold. And if you learn to look, you can see a lot of things that are important for yourself. And this leads to true development. If we avoid and bypass pain, we're not growing. So challenging emotions are always good news. Learn to think like this. Oh, I'm feeling a difficult feeling. Just today I felt really bad at some point. I got some news and I felt really bad. I didn't feel good at all. Fortunately, it didn't take me long to turn it around and think in a different way. Oh yeah, that's an opportunity. So I was looking at the bad feeling, I was allowing the bad feeling to be there, I was friendly to it, and now I feel pretty energetic, I feel good. It's coming back home. It's just something that I didn't want to look at for a long time, and now I'm starting to look at it. There is a deep sense of joy in that. So, that's pretty much all that comes to mind for tonight. I'm always saying the same thing, have you noticed? I always start the class with the same sentence. So, welcome everyone. And then at the end I say, okay, that's all that comes to mind for today. Any questions?